Chapter 41. Old Friends and New Threats. Rand ran into the Queen's Blessing, panting, and asked Llangwin where Master Gil was. Llangwin stood to look for whatever trouble chased the boy, and told him that someone had tried to steal their cats, and that Gil was in the library. Rand found him with Loyal playing stones, and Gil told Rand he was starting to worry that he'd had problems with the Whites or the beggar. Rand explained, "I saw him, but that's nothing. I saw the Queen too, and a lighter. That's where the trouble is." Gil snorted as he claimed that Gareth Bryn was in the common room earlier, arm wrestling the Captain Commander of the White Cloaks. Rand growled, "Blood and ashes! Everybody thinks I'm lying today." He told them that he climbed the wall of the palace garden to get a look at Logain, and fell right off it into the palace grounds. As it started to dawn on the innkeeper that Rand was telling the truth, Loyal murmured,
"Taviran."
Exasperated, Rand said that it happened. He wishes it hadn't, but it did, then told the entire tale. All through the story he reiterated in his mind that he was Tam Alfor's son. Gil told Rand that he can't wait for his friends anymore. He needs to leave Camelin quickly. Elida will have the guards searching for him, and it will only take 2 days to search every inn, and that's only if chance doesn't bring them here straight away. They need to get Mat well enough to travel, and Rand says he'll send for Mother Grub if he has enough coin. Gil told him he'll cover the cost and lend them the horses to speed their journey. Rand was truly touched and thanked Gil, remarking that he's a good friend considering the trouble they've brought. Gil was embarrassed and stared at the stone board, as he said that Tom was his friend and he'll do what he can on his behalf. Loyal declared that he still wanted to accompany Rand and Mat, and listed out all the dangers involved to show he understood the risk. He added,
"You truly are Taviran, Rand. The pattern weaves itself around you, and you stand in the heart of it."
Loyal's words sounded so like Elida's that Rand snapped, "I don't stand at the heart of anything!" His anger shot Gil and the Ogier. He felt ashamed of himself and told Loyal he could join them. He would appreciate the company with the way Mat has been lately, though he worried how Mat would treat Loyal. The Ogier remarked that at least Mat is only using harsh words. It's not like a mob chasing him and he hasn't tried to kill him. One of the maids, Gilda, appeared and told Gil that there were White Cloaks in the common room. The innkeeper rushed off telling Loyal to stay in the library, and Rand followed but stayed hidden from sight. Gil greeted the 5 White Cloaks, but the officer cut him off, saying he's been to 20 inns already searching for a pair of dark friends from the 2 rivers. Gil was furious and declared that he has no dark friends in his inn. Everyone is a Queen's man. The officer made a snide remark about Morgaze, and every man in the inn stood glaring at the White Cloaks. The officer seemed oblivious to the danger, but the others looked nervous. He threatened Gil with having the dragon's fang drawn on his door if he doesn't cooperate. Gil ordered him out before he called the Queen's guards, and all the patrons drew their sword in support as the maids fled. Gil gave them to the count of 5 to leave. The White Cloaks have no writ in Camelin. The other White Cloaks left, pulling the officer with them, who warned that they'll be back. Gil sat down onto a chair, rubbing his hand over his head, as the patrons laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. He came over to Rand and said he didn't know he had it in him to do that, then warned Rand to stay out of sight. They will be back and send in spies pretending to wear the red. Rand was confused as to why the White Cloaks would be after Mat and him. Gil assured him that Llangwin and the others would watch the inn tonight, as much as to prevent anyone trying to scrawl a dragon's fang on his door. Gilda ran up to them and said there was a lady in the kitchen asking for Rand and Mat by name. Gil looked at him and said that if he's brought the Lady Elaine to the inn, then they'll all face the headsman. When Gilda squeaked, Gil warned her to forget what she heard. When she left, he warned Rand that there'll be rumours amongst the maids of him being a prince in disguise within 5 minutes, and city-wide by nightfall. Rand mused that he'd never told Elaine about Mat, then stopped speaking as he smiled a huge grin. He ran toward the kitchen with Gil shouting at him to wait. Within the kitchen he found Moraine sat at the table, as Nynaeve and Egwene threw their arms around him, with Perrin just behind. Lan lounged in the doorway, keeping an eye in every direction. There was laughter and a tangle of arms as Nynaeve tried to check that he was well. They appeared well too, although Perrin had signs of bruising on his face and kept looking down, not meeting anyone's eyes. Rand's throat was full of emotion as he told them he'd feared never seeing him again. Egwene was still hugging him as she said, "I always knew you were alive." Nynaeve admitted that she didn't, but is happy to see him and he looks well considering. Gil entered the kitchen and commented on the scene, and Rand confirmed that they were his friends and introduced everyone. Gil told Moraine she was welcome as a guest in his inn, unless she means to join her sisters in the palace. Moraine replied that she will stay here for a while, as a calico cat jumped into her lap, followed by several other cats running into the kitchen. She asked Gil if he had a problem with rats, and he told the Aes Sedai that the city was awash with them right now. Rand was watching Perrin and worried for his friend. Something was wrong with his eyes. Moraine told Gil that she will help with the rat problem as payment, as he wouldn't charge her, earning a bow from the innkeeper. Nynaeve asked where Matt was, since she had said that he was here too, and Rand replied that he was in their room not feeling well. The wisdom demanded he take her to him straight away, and Moraine said she would follow soon. Rand led his friends through the halls, while Perrin told him that when they arrived in Camelin, Moraine led them right past all the other inns and came straight here. Egwene added that when they reached the Queen's blessing, she entered the kitchen and simply asked the maid to fetch Mat and Rand. Perrin also remarked that people kept asking them red or white, which Rand told him didn't matter, as they're leaving for Tar Valon. They asked after Tom, and Rand sadly told the group that he died, saving them from a fade. Then he choked up and couldn't continue speaking. For a moment, the joy of the reunion flattened. When he could speak again, he warned that Mat isn't really sick, but he's not sure what's wrong. He opened the door, calling out to Mat to see who was here. He was still curled up in a ball on his bed and hoarsely said,
"How do you know they're really who they look like? How do I know you are who you look like?"
Nynaeve looked disdainfully at Rand. "Not sick?" she asked and pushed past him. Mat kept talking.
"Everybody changes. How can you be sure? Perrin, is that you? You've changed, haven't you? Oh, yes, you've changed."
He started laughing, sounding more like a cough. Perrin dropped to Rand's bed, putting his head in his hands. Nynaeve knelt next to Mat, trying to check him for a fever. She claimed he was burning, but it made no sense with his sweating, and asked the boys to help bring his temperature down. Mat spat out,
"Pretty Nynaeve. A wisdom isn't supposed to think of herself as a woman, is she? But you do, don't you? You can't make yourself forget you're a pretty woman, and it frightens you."
Her face paled as Mat gave a sly laugh, as his eyes landed on Egwene. "Pretty, Egwene. Pretty as Nynaeve, and now you share other things, don't you? Other dreams. What do you dream about now?" Moraine walked into the room, as she said that they're safe from the Dark One's eyes for now. When her eyes fell on Mat, she hissed as if she'd burnt herself, and demanded Nynaeve get away from him. The wisdom just stared at Moraine, who stepped up to her, gripped her by the shoulders and dragged Nynaeve across the room, ignoring her protests. Moraine told everyone to stay away from him and be quiet. She laid a hand on his knee and Mat snarled as he curled up tighter. His body began to convulse and he suddenly lashed out at her face with the ruby dagger. One moment Lan was by the door and the next he was holding Mat's arm in a vice-like grip, the dagger missing Moraine's face by inches. Mat stared at the Aes Sedai in hatred as she demanded, "How did he come by this? I asked if Mordef had given you anything. I asked, warned you, and you said you had not." Rand told her that he didn't know Mat had taken the dagger from the treasure room until they'd already been separated. Mat snarled and tried to shake off Lan's grip, as Moraine told Rand, "It is a wonder you got this far carrying this. I felt the evil of it when I laid my eyes on him, the touch of Mashadar, but a fate could sense it for miles. Dreadlords, Trollocs, and even some dark friends, if they'd truly given away their souls, would feel it as if they were drawn to it." Rand explained that there were multiple dark friends and a fade on their journey, as well as rumours of strange things in the night outside the city that might be Trollocs. Lan told him it was Trollocs, as well as Myrddraal. He'd seen signs of them for 2 days. Egwene exclaimed that they're within the city, they should be safe, but Lan cut her off to say the Fades are building an army, 12 fists at least. When they have enough numbers, they will enter the city to get to them. It may bring the Borderlander armies south, but it looks like the Shadowspawn are willing to take the risk. The Free Boys have eluded them for too long. They've brought the new Trolloc war to Camelin. Egwene began to sob. Perrin shook his head and Rand felt sick. All those people at each other's throats when the real threat was outside the walls. He envisioned the city and palace on fire. Elaine, Gawain and Morgase dead. Moraine told them that if they can get out of Camelin unseen, the focus will shift from the city. Perrin declared, "Better we're all dead," and Rand jumped at how it echoed his own thoughts. Perrin went on that everywhere they go they bring pain and suffering. Nynaeve was about to launch into an angry lecture, but Moraine stopped her and asked, "What do you think to gain, for yourselves or anyone else, by dying? The Lord of the Grave has gained much freedom to touch the pattern as much as I fear. He can reach you dead more easily than alive. Dead you can help no one, not those who helped you or your families back home. The shadow is falling over the world and none of you can stop it dead." Perrin raised his head to say they can't stop it alive either, and Rand gasped when he saw his yellow eyes. Moraine said she will argue with him later, but for now she has to help Mat. Egwene asked what was wrong with him, and Nynaeve asked if it was catching. She can help, she never catches anything. Moraine confirmed it was contagious, but Nynaeve's protection will not help. She pointed to the ruby dagger and told them it's from Shadala Goth, where everything down to the pebbles are contaminated and a danger if brought out of Aradol. The evil that killed Aradol is within the dagger, and Matt too. They're filled with suspicion and hate, and when Matt carried it out of the city, he released it. Part of his heart is fighting Mashadar's contagion, but he's almost defeated and it may kill him. One scratch of the dagger would infect and destroy the victim. White-faced, Nynaeve asked Moraine if she can aid him. Sighing, the Aes Sedai replied, I hope so. For the sake of the world, I hope it's not too late. She pulled out her Angreal and told the group to leave the room but stay hidden.
Thanks for listening. Please like, share and subscribe and help get a new channel off the ground. Thank you.